Parliament that seeks to, abolish the collection of the e-levy. Of course, awaiting the presidential assent. Let's take a listen to the views of some Ghanaians after we hit the streets.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing, especially as an entrepreneur. Usually people complain a lot when they are sending you money. So now that it's been taken off, I think it's good for businesses. Customers are no longer going to be concerned about the e-levy charges and all that. And I think one annoying thing that used to happen was usually when you go out to buy something from the market, people are more concerned of the charges than the money itself. So they usually pass a comment like, for charges, they come home, and it's really annoying.
To most of the Ghanaian youth, myself included, I think it's kind of good news because we'll be able to can do our transactions a bit more without having these taxes being deducted, especially the betting tax, because it's something that I felt was unnecessary.
I'm happy the betting taxes has been taken off because my brothers, my fellow colleagues that do the betting, when they lose alone. But when it's time that they win, then the government is going to take 20%. It's an actual cheat. It's really painful when those monies are taken from the money they win.
I think it's a good initiative because we one way or the other pay taxes directly or indirectly, and we all know that taxes are also used for the development of our country. But with this betting tax thing, I don't bet though, but then I feel like it's just not necessary. So they should just focus on getting taxes from other areas, but with the betting tax, I don't think it's going to help at all. So they cancelling it, I think, is the best thing to do.
Oh, it's a good news though. And then it was really affecting us in so many ways. As for instance, we sending our parents money and then we don't earn much, but you then have to add charges and all those stuff. So it was really worrying us. So we thank the government.
Oh, it's actually a good news for us because initially it was really taking much from us because when you stake the bets, when you lose, it's only you that loses. But now, because the betting tax has been taken off, in case you win a huge sum of money and no taxes, you'll be able to do whatever you want to because initially it was 10%. And when you win something like 5,000 cedis, they'll be taking 500 cedis, which is a huge sum of money, which will actually go against you. But initially, when you lose, no one gives you money. It's coming from your pocket. When you lose, no one gives you money. But in the case when you win, the government decides to take 10%. And even if that 10% was even going into infrastructure, like hospital roofs and things, even if we were seeing evidence of what the money was being used for, it would have even make sense. But we're seeing nothing. So now that it has been taken off, I think it's good.
So I think it's a good thing. I mean, we've been waiting for this taxes to be, scraped off, and finally has been done. For me, fingers are still crossed, because for all I know, it's just it's still on paper. We really need to experience that it has really been scraped off, and I think it's good, especially with the betting tax. That 10% tax was just it was just cruel. 10%, 1% would have actually been okay, but 10% was just wasn't it for me. So I think it is a good step in the right direction, and that's what most of Ghanaians were really hoping for, and that's a change that we voted for.
Yeah, I think it's a good.
So those were the views of some sections of Ghanaians in relation to what happened in Parliament yesterday, and of course a lot of them talking about the e-levy and the betting tax. The Mobile Money Agents Association, they are projecting a significant increase in transactions as Parliament has scrapped the e-levy but awaiting presidential assent. Now we know that Parliament on yesterday passed the Electronic Transfer Levy Bill 2025, and that is to abolish the controversial e-levy. It previously taxed electronic financial transactions, also taxes on bet winnings, gamings and lotteries, as well as the emissions levy have been abolished, all awaiting a presidential assent. Let's speak with Evans Otunfo. He's the General Secretary of the Mobile Money Agents Association of Ghana. He's joining us on what their association make of the latest decision of Parliament to abolish or scrap the e-levy. Evans, thank you for making time for us this morning. Is this coming as a good news for you? I understand you're projecting some 20% increase, a significant increase in transactions. It's good news for you, is it not?
Crosby, this is good news to our business, and virtually any platform and any business that leverages electronic payment. So it's really going to have an extensive impact, just as its presence has really had an extensive negative impact. Taking it off finally means good for our businesses. So we really welcome this relieving development from the government.
When we began collecting e-levy, talk to us about the journey from that time up until now. What has been the experiences of your people before we talk about what changes we're likely to see right now, that is, if it is assented to?
Yeah, so at the inception of the levy, we have really been imparted, a lot of privileges that we have been enjoying due to the passage of the bill. All those privileges were denied us. The presence of the e-levy has really dealt very badly with working capital. Crosby, you would accept that at the introduction of the levy, the way it has been structured and defined is such that irrespective of the number of times of transactions that one does on the electronic platform, the e-levy is going to be applied. And so if you are transferring funds like 10 times in a day, each of the transfers that you do, e-levy will be charged on it. The nature of the business of the mobile money agent, we have to transfer funds to bank, we have to pull funds from bank just for purpose of liquidation, and this happens more than 10 times in a day. And each of these activities, e-levy is being applied to it. And at the end of the day, it means that e-levy is really going to take a chunk of your working capital, which under normal circumstances it shouldn't have been so. So the levy in its design hasn't been well thought through, approach. We deal with the banks, we get our funding from the bank. The bank gives us loans to work with. And now that the e-levy has been introduced, it means that the bank, in an attempt to push funds to the agent, the bank are going to charge e-levy. Now, what it means is that the banks will now be discouraged from preparing or designing some forms of soft loans for our businesses. Now, banks that will try to defy, the e-levy, what it means is that they are also going to be giving these loan facilities to agents at a very exorbitant cost of interest rate, and all of these come at a disincentive to our businesses. Our revenues really got impacted, and we have really seen some, change in the consumer behavior of our customers. And we know that we share that direct relationship with the consumer, and whatever that disrupts and affects the confidence of the consumer with regards to our product directly to also impact our business, our revenue, and the profitability. The fintech organization, the EMIs, and all businesses that have to leverage electronic payment, all of these people have really been impacted by, the electronic transactions levy. And the compounding effect is that at the end of the day, the mobile money agent is really going to suffer because we are in the center of the distribution of within the ecosystem. system. Now, some of our members also have to lay some employees. You have to, close down some of your outlets. So when it comes to the issue of the e-levy, it has been something that we least expected that this is what was really going to happen to our business. And so for a government to finally pass a bill to repeal the levy, I think it really comes as a relief to us, and we are just waiting patiently to see that finally it has been taken off.
But Evans, going forward, how will it directly impact your work? Is it in terms of the frequency of transactions or the volume of transactions or the growth in the transaction trajectory? Essentially, the direct benefit to your association is what?
Yes, so all these that you have said, in an absence of any levy, it means that we are going to experience exponential growth. We are really going to see customers who may have reduced the volume of transactions that they bring to the agents as a result of the e-levy now resuming to their full transactional levels. Persons who may have decided, I have been hearing on other platforms that Professor Bopin for the past 2 years says for e-levy for him to pay is not going to use mobile. So it means that we have lost, Professor Bopin as a customer to mobile money business. So now that the e-levy has been taken off, we believe that Professor Bopin will now resume to the utilization of the mobile money platform. And it means that we have, gradually going to get all these persons who may have decided that now they would prefer using cash than, using the mobile money platform. All of these individuals will now be getting back. Now the fintech organizations also will now start full operation. The banks that we are working with, that they design soft credit for us, all of these institutions are now going to rethink about how they will bounce back in terms of the partnership and the loans that they give to the agent. Now, the cost of the facility, in the absence of the e-levy, the facilities will now really become very minimal to agents. So it is a very interesting business environment that we are really going to be expecting in the coming quarters. And we have been projecting that where the data stands at now, we should be experiencing some, great growth or progress with regards to the data that maybe the first 2 quarters of, this year after the levy has been taken off, we are really going to be experiencing some good move over there. And of course, the government the drive towards a digitized economy, financial inclusion, and the cashless economy. All of these, actions that the government have been taking, like getting the e-levy off, it is really going to propel, a good foundation for some of these policies to really drive and sell well.
Evans, thank you so much for making time for us this morning. Evans Otunfo is the General Secretary of the Mobile Money Agents Association of Ghana, speaking with us there. Let's now bring on to the conversation Julius Jima. He is the Executive Director of the Center for Public Policy and Economic Analysis. Julius, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us. A lot happened in Parliament yesterday. A lot of bills were considered. Some amendments were made. Some repeals were made. From where you sit, in terms of public policy direction and analysis, we've done a good job.
Well, good morning, Novo. Good morning to your cherished listeners. Thank you so much for having me. I think that so far so good. We've done a good job. Parliament in general. Yesterday I watched proceedings, and then it even extended to midnight. And as we speak, I'm sure some of the bills are still there for debate and then final reading stage. I think that the interest is that at the end of the day, the ordinary Ghanaian will be able to have a lower cost of living. I mean, we want to live and then we want to spend less to live. And that is the beauty of all these economic changes that we are going through. And it does happen with every electioneering cycle when a new government comes on board. And that is what has been shaping us to move forward. So I think that in the light of the general and overall decisions that have been taken by government for and on behalf of the people of Ghana, so far as it is, leading up to reducing cost of living for Ghanaians, I think that we've done a good job.
Julius, looking at what happened in Parliament yesterday, from the e-levy to betting tax to the COVID-19 conversation, well, that is still pending, and all of these things still waiting for a presidential assent. What I'm asking is, what impact does the decisions that Parliament took yesterday have on the country's economic policy, the country's fiscal future?
Well, I think that they are really positive impacts. If you look at if we cast our mind back to 2024 elections campaign, in fact, I have with me the campaign manifesto for both the NDC and the MPP, and we realized that there were some similarities when it comes to fiscal policy directions, and even to some extent, some of the economic policies as well. So we realized that the major political parties were advocating for a reduction in taxes or some taxes going off or simplifying our tax regime or our fiscal directions. So in that light, we could clearly see that government is, the government of the day was really prioritizing the ordinary Ghanaian. And in doing that, it has shown in the reflection of what went on yesterday in Parliament. Tax handles or tax type or tax tool that government uses to be able to stimulate growth in the economy has its own consequences. And once you use it, carefully, or once you use it more responsibly, the economy will respond for you to be able to make your money that you want to make in the country. So in the light of e-levy, I mean, we all know the history surrounding e-levy. It was a tax that we weren't whether it's a consumption tax or an income tax. So classifying it was even a big deal. And in doing that, the kind of how the gestation period for the tax and how the government then went about the implementation, Ghanaians really saw the loophole in the tax system, and then we avoided it. So currently, if you look at the world is going digital, and we are talking about digital economy. If you want to put some kind of taxes on digital economy, it's also going to restrict the growth that we want to expect to a digital economy, because I think that the government then was promoting a cash-like, more of a cashless society where we'll be able to, transact more with the digital space and then avoid cash transactions in this. In fact, Bank of Ghana has been doing all this to be able to achieve this, principle. So any attempt to bring a tax and then call it electronic transaction, we all saw the kind of noise and then the rejections and all that surrounding it. So fast forward to now, if Parliament yesterday have done us the honors by approving and then passing it to bill, waiting for presidential assent, it ties in line with the kind of sentiment that Ghanaians are sharing, the ordinary Ghanaians are sharing, especially those of us that are using the Momo to transact more. In fact, we have realized, or there's a data research suggesting that Momo has become most of us, our bank account. These days, it's very difficult for you to go to the bank to even withdraw cash. Now, with the help of technology, there are more banking apps that you can download from either Google Play Store or Apple Store, where we can link up our bank account to our Momo, and then there are movement of monies from your bank account to the Momo, and then back to, from Momo to bank account. In fact, if you want to do deposit, you can put it into your Momo account and push it into your bank account. So it gives us the convenience and the flexibility of doing things and making things very simplified for the ordinary Ghanaian. So if you try to put a tax there, and then, for instance, you're moving money from your bank to Momo back to your bank, and you are going to be paying all this tax. It restricts the kind of transactions that you want to do. So all in all, it has given us that positive indication. The leverage on the ordinary Ghanaian is that burden has been absorbed.
Right.
And I believe that is what we all wanted. We can look at the fiscals in terms of the quantity, in terms of the money side. We can also argue on that side. But I think in general, the background and where we've got into and how far we have come, I think that is a step in the right direction. It is going to ease the cost of doing business. In fact, our people in the market, various markets like Abosoka and then Kantamanto, where they use more of this momo, will be happy for this, abolishment that is going on in Parliament.
Right. Julius, let's now talk about the other bills that were passed by Parliament. We've already spoken about the Electronic Transfer Levy Bill 2025. Now, the Emissions Levy Bill 2025, that was also repealed. Now, we understand that proper collection of that did not happen because the agencies responsible, the DVLA, the Transport Ministry, and the GRA, they were not able to come to, a proper arrangement so that this will be in place. But taking it off the books, that also signals some good thought, doesn't it?
Yes, I think that taking off emission tax from our books is also one thing that we should be proud of. One of the things that we also realize in the system is that sometimes we introduce the taxes, but we don't have the infrastructure and the necessary architecture to even facilitate the implementation of these taxes. So it's good that we do the discussions surrounding it, but when we want to say, let's implement it, you realize that the various state institutions that have to, work the implementation, they don't have the equipment or, let's say, the machinery to be able to do the collection. So why then introduce or bring that tax handle? It's just going to be sitting down in our booth. Let's not forget, there was a luxurious vehicle tax, similarly to this emission tax. Probably the emission tax would have expanded the scope of the luxurious tax. So that came, we saw how the public reacted against it, and then it was also repealed again. So I think that this emission tax, even if it has been implemented, will not see the light of day as we speak till now, because we also received that, criticism, public criticism that, the same luxurious vehicle tax also realized. So I think that the government of the day or the current finance minister trying to take this off our books is also another good thing that we have to be proud of, so that we will not be thinking about tax. What we have to be thinking about, these days there's green energy, and then we are looking at how best we can protect and safeguard our environment. There's climate change going on around the world. I mean, we can experience it. Just yesterday, look at the heavy downpour that happened, and it has even affected most of people's properties. So if we really want to focus on prioritizing climate change, then we should start the conversation surrounding it and look at how best we can safeguard our environment against bushfires and then, the changing climate that we are experiencing. And that would not mean that we just have to, bring tax. Tax is just the easy way of just punishing the people to do certain things that will cause harm to the environment. I believe that there should be more education. We should start with that process. There should be more workshops. There should be more engagement to understand the need to protect our environment and then the weather, so that we can start looking at putting more trees and then doing more green in our environment to safeguard our own life than to just bring in a tax to punish people. Government can also do more at the port by restricting importation of old age cars that we know. We know this is like if a car is more than 10 years, clearly the engine and then how it's going to work is going to affect the environment. But we see one or two, they bring them into the system, and then once you're able to pay your duty at the port, they get the cars back in town. So we can enforce the law, we can enforce some of the bylaws. Our AMAs and then district assemblies can also be enforcing some of their bylaws so that they restrict some of these vehicles that is polluting the environment the more. They can also be regular checks with our industries that is also polluting the environment, especially those in the manufacturing side.
Right.
So, and just decide to bring this tax and then, just is going to suffer the burden, we'll see the same kind of restrictions that people were fighting against.
Okay. Julius, I'd like for you to stay on the lines with me as I engage Professor John Gash, is the Dean of the University of Cape Coast Business School, also an economist joining us. Prof, thank you so much for joining us on the program. We were just talking about how busy Parliament was yesterday in the bills that is passed. We've spoken about the electronic transfer levy and the emissions levy. Now to the income tax amendment bill 2025. Tell us what that is and what that seeks to do for the government and for Ghana's fiscal future.
Well, the aim of all these taxes, whether it is reduction of a tax rate, removal of taxes, realigning the taxes, is to ensure that the fiscal policy is used to promote the business environment, is to enhance compliance, and is to rake in revenue in a more progressive manner that does not disrupt businesses, so to say, as we were having in the past, where businesses were complaining excessively because of the disruptive taxes and levies.
So if we're looking at the income tax amendment bill, particularly the income tax amendment bill 2025, that was also passed by Parliament, what is that?
Well, it's trying to bring amendment into some of the elements within the tax bracket,
right?
To make it more flexible for businesses to operate. That's the essence of all these amendments that we're talking about.
For the 1.5% withholding tax on unprocessed gold, how will that help the finances of the country?
Can you ask the question again?
As part of the repeals, we're looking at a 1.5% withholding tax on unprocessed gold. So what we're asking is, to what extent does that benefit the finances?
I think all those things happening in the extractive sector taxes is to promote more indigenous participation in the extractive sector. That is why you see those taxes removed from the operations of the small scale mining companies, which are largely indigenous, to ensure that their activities are promoted, and again to slap some more taxes on the large gold mining companies to contribute more to the revenue kitty of the country. So it's to strike a balance in the industry.
Prof, we also have on the lines Julius Jima, also with some finance knowledge. And Julius, this is to you. The Revenue Administration Bill 2025, the aim is to reduce the percentage of total revenue set aside by the Finance Ministry into the Ghana Revenue General Refund account. Now, if we do this, what changes are we likely to see? What impact is it going to have?
Well, I think that the finance minister is looking for avenues to generate more revenue, currently through enhancing the consolidated fund. The revenue tax policy that the finance minister is trying to achieve is just about the utilization of the tax refund account. The issue here is that e-levy is now of a betting tax is also will be a thing of the past. And there were debates or argument that where will the finance minister or the finance minister should be able to show us where he's going to get money for those shortfalls. So the finance minister in the 2025 budget statement came back to Ghanaians and then admonished us that, look, there is an account sitting there which is a tax refund account. And this tax refund account the law that brought or established the tax refund account is the Revenue Act, that is Act 916. Now, this act is saying that every year, set aside 6% of your previous year revenue and then keep it in the refund account so that you use it for tax refund purposes. Tax refund purposes are for businesses, probably they overpay tax, or, in terms of their monthly filing of tax payment and what have you, they will have some tax credit that the GRA has to pay. Or they are imports, businesses that import into the country. The GRA allows them to pay for, their duties. So when you pay your duty and then you clear your goods back into the system, then you come and claim your tax refund. An audit, as the finance minister did indicate, suggested that the utilization of the funds in the tax refund account is being underutilized. So what it means is that it's kind of an audit query, because if there is a money set aside in this account and then the purpose with which it was established, you use it and there are more money sitting in the account, what it means is that you have to push the money back into the consolidated fund. And then if you look at the budget statement, the minister accounted that there were about 29.1 billion Ghana cedis that have accrued into the tax refund account for the past 8 years, of which about 12.5 was actually used for the purpose with which the account was set, and the remaining 16 point something was also used in different things. That is misapplication, and that this kind of misapplications are things that are not meant for the account or the refund account to be used. But the finance minister, because it's the finance minister, have that prerogative option to use those money sitting in the tax refund account to finance other things. And we don't want that. So if you want to now give relief to Ghanaians, and then you have the same of your tax revenue sitting in an account called tax refund, what you have to do is to amend the law and then call back those excess funds into the consolidated fund so that the finance minister can allocate those resources to the kind of expenditures that the minister wants to actually allocate, or to support government programs and then policies. So that is what the minister is just trying to do. I'm recalling off my tax revenue that I set aside and kept in the tax refund account back to the consolidated fund, and all taxes fund its way into the consolidated fund so that it can be allocated to programs and then resources or policies that the government wants to undertake. The government have, key policies that they want to do. There's 24-hour economy, there's 10 billion big push, there's gold board, there's economic transformation agenda that is seeking to modernize agriculture, agribusiness, and value addition for import substitution, export and job creation. Import substitution and export is one of the big things that we've discussed over and over, that we have to industrialize this our country. And then there are things that, import that is affecting our exchange rate volatility. We should be able to do substitutions for them so that we don't import more and then it will have, a burden on our currency. So all these key policy initiatives need money so that the government can fund them. So if you have your money sitting in different accounts where you might not have the opportunity or the luxury to allocate them because there is a law that sets aside those accounts. It's a matter of amending those laws and call it back to where the minister can have the opportunity
to have access to
allocate
the money
them so that it will not amount to misapplication. I hope you get that.
Right.
So that is what is happening.
Okay. And this one is to you, Prof. Gachi. We know that the Value Added Tax Amendment Bill 2025 was also passed by Parliament yesterday. The aim is to exempt payment of tax on motor vehicle insurance. What does that mean? Hello, Prof. Can you hear me? Unfortunately, we seem to have lost Professor John Gachi there. Prof, can you hear me?
Hello?
Yes. Prof, if you can hear me, I'm asking about the Value Added Tax Amendment Bill 2025. And that aim was to exempt payment of tax on motor vehicle insurance. What I'm asking is, what does this mean and how will we benefit from it?
Well, I think the minister pronounced that in the budget statement, and taxes are based on law. So if you want to exempt those people from taxes, then you just have to go to Parliament and cause Parliament to pass a law to allow them to have that benefit of the tax exemption or the waiver. So that's exactly what the minister has done.
If we're looking at the Special Import Levy Amendment Bill 2025, which is seeking to amend existing laws passed in 2013, and I'm talking about Act 861, to extend the period of implementing the law from 2026 to 2028. Why is there the need for this bill particularly?
Well, what happens normally is that if you are implementing a particular tax law or a revenue handle, that you think that is the way the economy has performed still needs that revenue handle to continue, or does not need the revenue handle to continue, that you need to go to Parliament for an extension of time. And we have seen that a lot in the past, especially when some special taxes and levies were put on the banking sector to revive the economy. After 3 years, we realized that the sunset clause that was put in place cannot end. So we went back to Parliament to extend it. And the same procedure is what the minister is using in the interest of protecting the revenue basket of the economy and ensuring that the purpose for those tax handles continue to benefit the country.
The Growth and Sustainability Levy Amendment Bill 2025, seeking to raise levies imposed on gold mining companies and other mining companies, as well as upstream oil and gas companies by 3%, that generated some conversations in Parliament. For instance, the minority, their concern is that it will deter investors from coming into the country, particularly people who are belonging to that sector, seeking to, consolidate the energy sector levies. How does this argument made by the sides of the House, the minority and the majority, how do we marry the two in the face of we needing money to implement policy directions in the country and not scaring investors away?
Well, I think that argument has been there for long, especially coming on the back of what we call stability clauses that pertains normally to the mining and oil and gas sector, where at the time that you sign an agreement, you believe that the tax fiscal regime that was used will be consistently applied over the life of the agreement that you sign. And that is a way of trying to appease the players in the sector. You engage them, etc. So that gives you some allowance of trying to vary the taxes, without which it will be very difficult to do. So my thinking is that there has been some engagement, and largely they accede to the need to allow that sector to contribute a little more to the tax revenue to manage the energy sector issues. So even though naturally it would have been difficult to do so, but I believe some good engagement preceded the passage of that law.
I see. Prof. Gachi, maybe this will be my final question to you, but Julius Jima, please stay on the line for me. Prof, when should we expect the president to deal with all of these bills that Parliament dealt with yesterday?
Well, I think the understanding is that the president will pay immediate attention to them to allow for the relevant institution to recalibrate and then operationalize the law. Some of them, the minister already indicated that they will be operational by April, and some of them, maybe some administrative issues may delay them for some few months. But I believe that they are meant to immediately have effects on the fiscal situation of the country. So much attention will be directed towards that to effect that as quickly as possible.
Well, the youth, we are interested in the president assenting to the e-levy bill, to the betting tax repeal bill, and all of that. Do you know when we should expect it? Today, maybe?
Well, that's what I say. Immediate attention will be paid to that from today going forward. Some action will be seen, and then I'm also aware that even the players are ready. They will be having some final meeting with GRA on Friday, so that they can know how to recalibrate the system to be reflected possibly in April. So that will have immediate attention.
Right, and Prof, finally, you spoke about the meetings with GRA. It brings to mind this question: if or when the president assents to these bills, how long will it take for implementation to begin? What are the processes after Parliament passes these bills and then it is transferred to the president?
My understanding is that work started as soon as the minister went to Parliament to read the budget. So it will not be so long a time for the recalibration to take place. I think that after the meeting on Friday, if everything goes on successfully, I believe that will not take much time for them to work on their system to reflect. So I believe those ones, April will do.
Prof, thank you so much for your time with us on the program. Professor John Gachi is the Dean of the University of Cape Coast Business School speaking with us. I still have on the phone lines Julius Jima. He is the Executive Director of the Center for Public Policy and Economic Analysis. Julius, thank you for staying with me. Still on the growth and sustainability levy, the minority said they were unable to support their colleagues on the bill because the way they were going, they say that they were going to collapse the private sector in this country. In fact, that was according to the MP for Fuasia Yebrikujo Nkrumah, who's also on the Finance Committee of Parliament. How do we respond to that genuine concern that this may scare investors away? However, these companies are making lots of profit that we need to tap into.
Thank you so much, Noble. I think the Honorable Opokuma is the chair or ranking for Economy and Development Committee of Parliament. If we look at the revenue measures that the finance minister have announced, special mention to all these extractives, our natural resources. So we can talk about the growth and sustainability levy that we are discussing. Mm-hmm. But again, aside that, there is also another movement of 80% MIF royalties also backed into the consolidated fund. And then again, looking at the same sunset clause, the minister's thinking or argument at the time was that gold prices have really, seen significant increment over the last years, and Ghana, as the number one producer of gold in the country, we should be able to take utmost benefit or advantage of our gold resources that we have in the country. Let's also not forget that the minister indicated that he's going to introduce what we call a natural resource rent. So it means that the minister is going after the mining operators in the country. Now, this natural resource rent is just the difference between the price at which the gold is sold on the international market minus the production cost that, these companies would incur to be able to get the gold downstream from upstream. So there are so many mentions surrounding our natural resources. Growth and sustainability levy, which used to be, if you could recall, a national stabilization levy just to cushion the economy. The minorities' argument, which I partially agree with them, is that if if care is not taken, what it means is that looking at the fluctuations on gold prices on the international market, if you push your tax from 1% to 3%, you'll be making the revenue all right to the state, which is okay. But what it means is that if gold prices also fluctuate, it is going to, that means downward, when the prices are coming down, it is going to add on to the business or the production cost of these companies, and they might not be competitive or they might not be in business. So we have to take a careful look at this growth and sustainability levy and the kind of rate that we want to do. And then even also the sunset clause, which was just about ending next year, has also been extended to 2028. So yes, we agree with the minister that he has to generate more money from the extractive sector, but we have to also, look at the part that where we would not be crashing companies and the mining companies who are doing the mining in the country. Let's also not forget that we have our small-scale miners who are also doing small-scale mining in the country. We also have a menace, which is illegal mining, popularly referred to as galamsey, also going on. And the government is spending so much money to fight illegal mining or irresponsible mining. So if you get all these monies, where you have to put it into the consolidated fund to support your programs and policies, if care is not taken, would also be using the same funds to tackle illegal mining. What I wanted to address is the policy harmonization here. Government is also seeking to have a gold board that will regulate the purchase and then the export of gold. Now, we are still waiting for the law that will set up the gold board to come so that we will know the scope and the spirit behind the gold board. But if we just want to do some forecasting around it, then in as much as that we want to promote mining or encourage our people to do responsible mining, currently they only export the mining out of the country. So they have their buyers overseas and they find their way to sell the gold to them and they earn everything on the market. And then now what they give to government is just about their taxes that they pay and the royalties that we also earn on our mining. So we really have to take a careful look at how these policies and revenue measures are coming with regards to our extractive sector so that we can really harmonize them and then get the needed objective that we want to get out of our extractive sector. Because there are so many mentions of the extractive that is going on. So that is where the minority probably are coming from, the fact that if you increase the growth and sustainability levy and then also extend the sunset clause, these mining companies that are doing responsible mining in the country, in as much as or in an attempt to regulate irresponsible mining, you might be hurting those companies that are doing responsible mining in the country. And the kind of investment that they have to bring into the country, they might tend to lean back or not to even come into your space and then do their mining for us. What will be the alternative? Is government prepared to go into mining itself or probably have a company that, will also be doing upstream mining like the way we have, GNPC doing upstream oil sector that is doing petroleum. So these are still the argument that we want to extend further aside these taxes that has been introduced by the minister. All in all, I think that it's just in the interest of the country to do well, to be able to rake in more revenue, and then also to be able to have a support or a cushion with regards to the taxes that has been abolished, so that at the end of the day, the fiscal space, the kind of fiscal environment that we want to have, and then the emphasis is on not going to borrow too much, because over the years, the excess expenditure has led us to going into borrowing more money. And then we saw where we ended up in, debt exchange and all that. We don't want to go back into that space again. We want to make sure that we reduce our expenditure, we have a cut in our expenditure. And then even if we want to borrow, no government will say that they will not borrow. Every government will have to borrow. But if even you want to borrow, we'll have a less amount of money to borrow to support our budget balances. And that should be the ultimate that we want to advocate for.
Julius, right, still on the concerns of the minority, they were concerned also over government's plan to extend the special import levy. They say that it will affect importers and cause a spike in the cost of spare parts, for instance, and other products that we rely heavily on based on imports. What impact will this have, first, on businesses, and why the majority also went ahead with this?
Well, Noble, I think that importers will not be happy with this sunset clause for special import levy. It's one of the levies that they have advocated for over the years. I mean, if you speak to Guta president and then most of the importers and exporters, they will tell you that they were really expecting this levy to be abolished. In fact, we have seen prices or even import duties that we pay at the port when we are clearing our vehicles. And Noble, if you look at the duty that they bring out and the kind of taxes and levies that have accumulated on a single importation of a car, you'll be amazed. One of the things that I have personally looked at is even import VAT is way higher than the import duty itself. Can you imagine? The VAT that we are paying on importation, import VAT, is way higher, about 56% of the duty itself. So we have to really take a careful look at our levies at the port. And I'm happy that the finance minister is here to look at the VAT reform, where we'll be able to have the opportunity to discuss VAT. It cannot be that VAT that we are paying on our import supersedes or higher than the duty itself that we are paying. And that is what is adding on to the cascading effect of price of vehicles, that we are seeing astronomical prices on the market that we can't even buy some. So the import levy is a levy on the special import levy. It's also one of the levies on import duty. And I think that if we would have seen some form of a reduction or an abolishment, it will go a long way to support, businesses, individuals that we are seeking to bring in or get in some car that we want to use for our personal transport or even commercial transport. It goes back to affect also the cost of spare parts, because currently we don't have companies that are producing spare parts for us, from shock absorbers to brakes to even engine parts. To sensors that now the cars are electronic these days, so much sensors are being control boards and everything. People have to go there, get salvage cars, and they cut and they put in containers and they bring them, they come and sell it to us. So all these things is where we have to really look at some of these policies and then kind of harmonize them. I believe that it's not just an end as we still travel. It's a 4-year cycle. So as we still travel, I believe that still stakeholders will have the opportunity to engage the finance minister so that some form of incentive, one or two, or an abolishment of, the kind of levies and duties on import alone. I believe that something will be done about it. But I'm sure when we tackle the whole VAT reform, where minister is trying to decouple some of these levies, get funded NHIF and COVID, and then even have a reduction of VAT, currently 15%, if it can come down to 12% and it will be a straight levy, then we can see an impact in our import duty. So I believe that just as the minority is also claiming, it's a good claim because it is going to affect, our importers. And then I believe that the argument on the floor of Parliament, Finance Minister will take a critical look at the claim that the minority is suggesting, so that they can see how best they can address some of these levies surrounding imports at the port for us.
Julius, and maybe my final question to you, and briefly, do we have a good balance as of now with the ones we're repealing and the ones we're seeking to help us generate revenue? Do we have a good balance to implement all the policies that the NDC government campaigned the 2024 elections on?
Well, I think that on the measurement from the manifesto promise, where under fiscal policy of the NDC manifesto, they promised to abolish some of these draconian taxes like e-levy, COVID-19 levy, betting tax, what have you, import duty for plants and machinery that we have statement. And now to we can see that now that e-levy is now just waiting for presidential assent. Betting tax almost the same. We have that balance now. What is left is that all the policy measures, revenue measures, expenditure measures that the minister have announced will yield the needed stability that we need in our economy. We want to, promote more of our exports. We want to do more of import substitution. That is where we can create the needed jobs and create the enabling environment that businesses can thrive, as we always say most often. So if you look at Chapter 3 of the NDC Manifesto, Chapter 2 is talking about jobs for all. Chapter 3 is talking about Ghana First. Ghana framework for revitalization, support, and then transformation. That is where the jobs are going to be created, and that is targeting industry. If we come to Chapter 2, jobs for all, the biggest of all is 24-hour economy. So all that is telling us is that we need to focus on the productive sector. And I believe right from the president to the finance minister, we have gotten an indication that we need to focus on the productive sectors of our economy, and then also move away from the taxes that is really affecting businesses. If we travel from last 2 years down this period, we have seen a lot of tax fatigue, and that is why something should have been done, and that is what is happening. Ghanaians are tax fatigue. If you talk about taxes, businesses will run away. Talk about taxes, individuals will run away. So it stands to reason that these abolishments are in the right order, and that is where we are getting the balance. At least is to take off that burden of hearing taxes from businesses away, and then once we get the relief, and the businesses are now doing okay, and then they are focusing their energies on the productive sector, the government now comes in and supports it with infrastructure, getting access to good roads, stable power, which is electricity. These days, if not that I'm saying, our water system should have been one of most sustainable, if not foreign of our water bodies. But I believe that the government is doing something to handle that. Once we do all these things for our businesses and our investors, then we can now focus more on industry. The government has a bigger policy, which is economic transformation agenda. The government has a bigger policy on AITA, which they call it Agriculture for Economic Transformation. So just as we've advocated over the period, if we focus on productive sectors, it is the same productive sectors that will create the jobs for you, that will build your buffers for you, and then advance your GDP for you. And when that is done, you can translate it into collecting revenue. And because you are giving them some incentive and relief, now when you are telling them to contribute something to taxes so that the government can get more money to do more for them, everybody will be okay with that. So if the minister would be what we used to say, fiscally prudent and then disciplined, and continue with the trajectory as they have started, and then always get the policies right as they have got. But you have to gauge the emotions and sentiments of your business community. Very, very important.
Right.
We saw that in the previous government. The same thing, 2017, we saw abolishment of taxes, 15 nuisance taxes. Businesses were happy. But as we traveled along, we realized that some taxes were being increased and then some were also reintroduced.
Right.
So we have to gauge the emotions and sentiment of your business community. Whatever they will have to suggest to the fund, we should have a listening finance minister. And one of the things that the finance minister did, which was good, was visiting the market. We should be seeing this thing regularly, the interactions with the people.
Right.
Sometimes just take, unannounced visits to the market, engage with tomato seller, engage with pepper seller, onion seller, go to Abuso can engage with those who are selling spare parts to us, get the businesses, just to gauge their emotions and see and get their buy-in.
Right.
Once we see some of these things, you wouldn't have a problem managing the economy, and then you'll be able to get more people rally around your policies.
Right.
And at the end of the day, we'll eradicate poverty in the country, we'll close the inequality gap, and then we'll grow money in this country.
Julius, thank you so much for your time with us on the program. Julius Jima is the Executive Director for the Center for Public Policy and Economic Analysis, speaking with us there. Let's speak to Samson Asakia Wingo, but he is the Executive Secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association. Samson, thank you for making time for us this morning. Now, for business owners and for businesses, if we're looking at the special import levy, although the minority has raised concerns over the government's plan to extend the special import levy to 2028, they say that it will affect importers and cause a spike in the cost of spare parts. For you, is that the case?
Well, thank you very much, my brother. Good morning to you and your listeners across worldwide. I must say that I'm so surprised that the minority leader, who was majority leader just a few months ago, when in 2024 budget was presented in 2023, we as business community really raised issues in regards to the tax component of the special import levy, COVID levy, e-levy, betting tax, and the sustainability taxes. In fact, I particularly also raised the issue of the upfront tax that they even brought, the 2.5 VAT upfront tax. And they never mind us. They never listened to us. And so we were shocked that when the new Patriotic Party presidential candidate, who was the vice president at the time, said when he became president, he will abolish the taxes that we were calling. And so you ask yourself that, was it contradictory to what the government at the time was saying they will not, and they were asked for extension? I think Markins couldn't question his government at the time when he was the majority leader. Now, why are you not listening to the business community by doing something to cushion them? So today that he's in opposition, gets some 2-3 months now, he then wants to think about the business people. Anyway, he's entitled to his opinion. But I can tell you that the relief yesterday, the Momo repeal bill or law or act, is a welcome news to we and the business community, and it's a welcome news to all ordinary Ghanaians. If you listen to the mood and read and listen and watch yesterday, every business people that they were contacted yesterday, everybody said the government have done well. Indeed, as Oliver Twist asked for more, we know that we keep on pushing the government to do something with the COVID levy to support us. We know that the government promised rationalization, from which the Minister of Finance said after the budget approved, he's going to engage business community. We know that the American government decoupled the VAT and health insurance at the port, which is standing on its own and then giving double taxation or a cost for the business community. The current Minister of Finance said they were going to reverse it and then have engagement with business community. We strongly believe that if someone say, I'll give you 50% and start giving you 10%, he will continue small. We have confidence and belief in the government. That a government that campaigned that they were strong, they were business friendly, that is a fair market government. They will move from taxation to production. And in 8 years, you and I, the number of taxes that they impounded, to the extent that if you look at the 2024 election, all the business community were against them. And so it is not a fair market to come and tell us what. We ourselves have the math. We ourselves have the channel that we will go to appeal to those who matters, and they will do the right thing at the right time for the business community.
I see. Samson, thank you so much for your time with us on the program. Samson Asaki Awengobet is the Executive Secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana.